call to order the regular meeting of the Batavia Board of Education, October 2nd, 2018, at 7 o'clock p.m. Kathy, could you please call the roll?
Big Bar.
I'm here.
Blakely. Here. Ryden.
Aye.
Gaspar.
Here.
Locke.
Here.
Lowe.
Present.
Brown.
Here. Mr. Lowe, could you please lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, declarations, are there any items to be added or removed from the agenda? No. All right, then the first thing I would like to do is jump right into celebrating successes, and I would like to introduce Matt Stanzak and the HC Storm Youth Leadership Team. Are they hiding?
I'm actually Greg Ballman. Matt Stanzak City. Our partner.
This is about half our group, so we got a big meeting now.
Okay.
Getting hungry.
Today we're going to talk about what we do on the team and how we support our school. Thank you, board members, for letting us do this. Before we start the presentation, we would like to give a big round of applause for the rest of the leadership team supporting us. HE Storm Youth Leadership Team.
Our group consists of 40 4th and 5th graders, which is our biggest group ever. Our main focus is to go outside and serve in the community. We will be learning about service and the importance of giving back to the community we live in. This year we will be partnering up with many different organizations. We will also do 2 different fundraisers to support different causes.
Caroling at the homestead. Every year we go to the homestead and spread some holiday cheer to the residents during dinner time.
We also go to the food bank and pack thousands of pounds of food for those in need. Last year, we packed 1,200 pounds of food, providing 1,000 meals for hungry neighbors in Northern Illinois. And 2 years ago, we packed 5,200 pounds of food, providing 375 meals for hungry neighbors in Northern Illinois.
Living Well Bridgewell. Our team collects coins and raises money to support the Living Well Cancer Center. Rain or shine, every May we gather and walk to support this wonderful organization.
Over the years, we have raised thousands of dollars to help those in need. Last year, we sold hot chocolate to support the Red Cross and sold school supplies to help purchase a new flagpole to honor our beloved Mr. Hogue. And up on the screen, we have pictures of the hot chocolate flyer, us with Mr. Hogue, and the flagpole we raised money for to honor him.
Some of my favorite work is supporting the Park District. A new tradition we have started over the last few years is to go and do a fall cleanup of the quarry. We also do a spring park cleanups as well. Last year we partnered with 2 new organizations. We made holiday cards and sent them cards for hospitalized kids, and the cards were distributed at Larry Children's Hospital. We also joined forces with Amy Cadone's Operation Flashlight, which supports local nursing homes.
This year we are excited to continue to work with the organizations we mentioned tonight and build on the great work that we did last year. We are always looking for new ways to help and organizations to partner with. Thank you for allowing us to come and present to you tonight. Finally, are there any questions you have for us?
How do you guys decide who gets to be part of your group?
Well, Mr. Stanzak and Mr. Bowman, they lead the group, so if there's too many people, it's not like they don't want you, it's just...
Here, let me take this one later. We can edit that video, right? So every year we have the students fill out an application, and then we go over the applications, and the last couple years we have accepted everybody because we know we have many great students with great talents, and like we said this year, 41 is our biggest group ever. We used to limit it and have to do random drawings and things like that, but we decided a couple years ago we wanted everybody in, so this year we got 41. We're 41 strong, so. Yeah. Yep.
Do you do most of the same organizations over each year?
We do. Yeah, most of them are repeating. You know, we kind of got like the big 4 or 5 that we do, and then we're always looking to add in new. Like last year, I added Operation Flashlight, and then the cards for the hospitalized kids was something that we found too.
We're always open to any new ideas, and a lot of the ideas come from the kids. That's one of the first things we do in the year.
So who can tell me, how does it make you feel to be a part of this organization?
It makes me feel last year I did this, and I feel like I made a huge part of the community, and I helped it out.
That's awesome.
I love being in youth leadership. I love helping everyone in the community, and I love being there and raising money for tons of school projects and fundraisers.
Great.
Yeah. What's the most challenging part about being in youth leadership?
Because we have tons of things after school. Like I have something maybe every single day after school, so it's hard to fit it into my schedule, but it's like, I can do it.
Yes, it works. Yeah. The scheduling for sure with these guys are all really busy, so but we make it work. Sweet.
I need to have my house painted.
Yeah, okay, so we got 41 4th and 5th graders. I'm not sure if that's what you're looking for. We are free. Yes, we can work on weekends. Yes.
Thank you, guys.
All right, Ruby.
We'd like to extend an invitation to any board member that would like to come and help us clean up the court next week. We're going Thursday, October 11th from 3:45 to 4:45. Bring your gloves and prepare to get Sunday!
Okay, turn around. Thank you guys. Thank you for the opportunity. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Yes. We're gonna go.
All right, the next item on our agenda is our public comments. If anyone wishes to address the board tonight, we ask you to see our recording secretary. She'll give you a pink form that we use for addressing the board. We ask you that you put your full name and address on the form, as we're required by state law to keep a detailed set of minutes for our meetings. When you address the board, we ask you to come to the table so we can all hear you. We do want to let you know that tonight the Board of Education and Administration aren't going to enter into a dialogue. It's our chance to listen. It doesn't mean that we don't take your issues seriously. If you would like further communication from the board, please let Kathy Scafidi, our recording secretary, know, and she'll make sure that there's a follow-up scheduled. We ask that everybody who addresses the board tonight to keep their comments to approximately 3 minutes. And I have the pink sheets here. Was there anybody that did not get a chance to fill out a pink sheet tonight? All right, then I would like to call Chloe Solfa and Chris Solfa to the table, please.
My name is Chloe Sofa. I'm a freshman at Batavia High School. I'm also a victim. I'm a victim of bullying. I'm also a victim of physical assault on school grounds. Finally, I'm a victim of what I believe is an unfair punishment by a school system that seems to be broken. I'm here today because I do not want to be a victim anymore. Last year, I was an 8th grader at Otovo Middle School. At the beginning of the year, I was a victim of unprovoked bullying by 2 other 8th grade girls. Ultimately, the intervention of my parents and their work with the school, the bullying by those 2 girls was brought under control for the most part. However, the effect of the bullying on me was socially and emotionally great. The bullies not only went after me directly, but also worked to destroy me socially. It really affected my relationships and friendships with others to the extent that some of those relationships and friendships had not been repaired. This is definitely an effective bullying that nobody seems to talk about. Despite the bullying, I was able to mostly recover. I got good grades, I made new friends. I was really looking forward to getting out of middle school and moving on to high school. At the beginning of this year, it all started happening again. Some of those girls that I didn't even know decided to target me. To this day, I have no idea why she chose to bully me. It began on the bus with verbal threats and remarks meant to make me feel small and unnecessary. It then continued at the school, where the mean remarks and bullying by this girl grew, up to the point where she began to threaten me and was going to physically attack me. I could not believe it was happening again. I just wanted to be a normal kid and student. However, I once again found myself to be the victim of unprovoked bullying. I truly hope it would just stop. It took so much of me last year that I didn't want to go through a whole process again. When I brought the bullying I was experiencing last year to the people at the school, I felt that it only brought more attention on me and gave the bullies more strength. I didn't want that to happen to me again. I was beginning my freshman year. Then on September 7th, I was at a home football game with one of my friends. The student section was extremely crowded. As I was making my way through the crowd, the bully claimed that I bumped her. She immediately started screaming at me and following me. I tried to just walk away. However, she ultimately cornered me and continued with the verbal assaults. Finally, she hit me. I did not want to fight and tried to turn away from the bully. At the point, she grabbed my ponytail from behind, pulled me to the ground, and started slapping me and hitting me once again. After some effort, I was able to get on top of the bully. However, she continued to hold my hair with one hand and hit me with the other hand. I had tried to ignore the bully. I tried to get away despite that I was being physically assaulted. At one point, I needed to defend myself. The bully threatened to beat me up. I was not the initial attacker. I felt I was in danger and I was being physically attacked. To defend myself, the use of force was necessary. Ultimately, the bully and I were separated. Until we were separated, the bully never let go of my hair and never stopped hitting me. Mr. Zumke, the middle school principal, came up to me after me and the bully were separated and led me away. I was then approached by Mr. Dietz, the school officer, who had told me that I was being kicked out of the football game. I asked to call my parents, who were at the game, and I was told I could not do so. I called them anyway. After meeting up with my parents, I ultimately left the game and went to the parking lot with my dad. I then ended up leaving the school grounds. Before leaving the school grounds, I was told that I had to go to the office right away on Monday morning. On Monday morning, I went to the office with my dad and met with Ms. Derby and Mr. Rollerson. I was told that I was being put on social probation for the rest of the quarter. I was at loss at what I was being punished for. I was attacked from the bully. I tried to get away, continued to be attacked, and ultimately had to defend myself. Once I was pulled to the ground later, I was told by my dad that the school found that my actions that night were beyond what would be considered self-defense. Again, I simply did not understand that. I was there. None of the adults that I had talked to from the school concerning the incident was there. In fact, they had told me that the adults witnessed the attack. In fact, they had told me that no adults had witnessed the attack on me. I wish an adult had. The bully left me no choice but to try to defend myself. For whatever reason, the school had refused to take statements from witnesses who were there and who saw the whole incident. I knew for a fact that the conflicting version of events that the school claimed it had from the bully and her half-sister, an 8th grader, who was not even there for the entire incident. Why were they told to believe this? The bully wins again. I am not a fighter, I am not a bully, I had never been in a fight in my life. If the bully had not physically attacked me at the football game, I still would not have been in a fight in my life. This punishment is not fair. I have told the investigation is limited and there is no loss of academic time. However, my homecoming was taken away from me. I was unable to participate in all of the homecoming events. I am unable to attend football games. I did lose academic time due to emotional distress. I feel that bullying has won again. Socially and emotionally, I wonder if I will be able to recover from this incident and everything that has happened since. I feel my friends are moving on just like they did last year, just like the bully wanted. I am not a liar. Either the school does not believe me or does not care. Both ways are unacceptable. Either way, I have been unfairly punished for defending myself from a bully. That is a lesson I take from all of this. The bully always wins. In conclusion, I would like to ask each of you a question. If you are being physically attacked by someone, do you defend yourself or let it continue? The answer at Batavia High School is that you are not allowed to defend yourself. If you do, you will be punished. That is wrong. This is something that needs to change, especially if you are going to take away a freshman girl's social life with only a limited investigation. I have lost all faith and confidence in the adults at school. Who are they really protecting? I, for one, can tell you that I will no longer be a victim, even if I have to protect myself to accomplish that goal. Thank you for your time and listening to me. I hope that all of you will try to fix this wrong that has been inflicted on me. I will turn over to my dad for any questions on the board. I am also available for questions. Thank you again. Thank you.
Great. Specifically, if you're telling me I think that's when we need to start right now, or the time we can go in closed session. That's my phone closed session. Okay.
I'm sorry?
So Tina made a motion, so someone needs to second it, and then we need to vote on it.
Okay.
So what's the reason to go to closed session for which to discuss
topic list?
It doesn't student discipline. So Tina made a motion to go into closed session and discuss student discipline. So
do we need a second? And then
Second, I'll second.
All right, second by Dryden.
Who's first? Tina, and then John.
Roll call.
Sure. Betty Barr.
No.
Blakely.
Yes.
Dryden.
Yes.
Gaspar.
Yes.
Locke.
Yes.
Lowe.
Yes.
Drummond.
Yes. Right, we will continue our meeting when we come back to open session. Thank you. Comments? The next person I would like to invite to the table is Tanya Wick.
Tanya.
I'm sorry.
That's
Tanya.
Everybody. Last Wednesday, September 26th, my 6th grade daughter came home from Rotolo, and she said she was upset because she undressed in the girls' locker room and she heard a boy's voice. Something that may be insignificant, but heard in a space previously reserved for girls, alarmed and scared her and us as parents because we had no other data points to go off of. She felt embarrassed, anxiety, fear, apprehension, and stress produced by hearing a boy in the locker room with no understanding or explanation. Skylar did not want to return to PE. At her emotional level of development, coupled with our family experience, transgender has not come up until this very moment in our household. There has been no opportunity to define or explain what transgender is. So all my child was aware of is a boy who sometimes wears a dress, which is her current level of knowledge, is now taking his clothes off near her. I implore you to reconsider and understand that how you handled your decision last week was harmful to my child. The lack of communication and transparency in your policy and the situation and simply acting without communication or input was alarming and emotionally hurtful. May I suggest, without compromising any student's privacy, that there are ample ways to discuss transgender as a group. When you decide to put a transgender boy in a girls' locker room in 6th grade as a surprise, without information, definition, and education, you've compromised the emotional well-being of every girl in that locker room. Their families deserve to be notified in advance in order to represent and protect all the students' best interests. I understand the school district policies must follow the law, and the policies and practices arising from the law must protect all students, not just one single individual. In this case, the transgender child. My daughter and the other students and the other girls in the 9th grade period, PE, whom are in the locker room, did not receive that consideration or protection. Not to mention middle school girls and boys are exquisitely more self-conscious about their bodies at this age and require more sensitivity. You are instituting dramatic social change, and those changes need to take place with input from the school, community, and be transparent with proper communication. There are lessons that can be applied from other civil rights advances that I would advocate in all instances. Information leads to awareness and understanding of personal differences, and no information leads to fear. My request is that there be a discussion and information gathering and transparency with such decisions that impact so many when your intent is to protect a single individual. By one, communication to the parents who are affected locally by the change. This would allow parents to address with their children the situation for understanding. This would result in increased sensitivity to the incoming child as well as pre-existing children in that locker room. And number two, broader communication of the school's policy on matters of transgender placement within the locker rooms. Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to invite Kelly Sullivan.
I'm here to also voice my concern and ask for an adequate solution to the girls' bathroom and girls' locker room at Bertolo. Immediately upon my finding out from my daughter and from another parent, I emailed the principal and we had dialogue. Because the school once again felt it not necessary to inform parents of an issue or a change about using a different bathroom or other things that have happened there, the parents don't know. It's just left to us finding out from other parents or gossip or spinning it however, instead of us being informed in the first place. My daughter using a different bathroom or calling in there or having a guard at the door is an unacceptable solution. I'm a bit outraged at the lack of privacy being given to girls. It's frankly disgusting. My daughter has 8th grade gym and was exiting yesterday when the boy was already coming in there. What if she was running late or behind? So it does affect her just because she's not in that gym period. What's the issue with having a separate changing place and a bathroom for transgender students? You're trying to make everybody comfortable and alienating kids with the solutions proposed. I hope for and expect a better and more thoughtful solution. As I asked my daughter today about using the bathroom, she said she'd rather just not use the bathroom at school anymore.
Next, I'd like to invite Priscilla Carr.
Thank you, first of all, for listening to us and for having this forum where we can discuss this with you or share our concerns with you. I was introduced to this. My daughter is not in the class, but I came home from a conference on Thursday night, and I have this written down, and I sent this letter to Mr. Zawinski. I said, when I came home this evening, my daughter described a very disturbing situation to me, which concerned the girls' locker room. She said that a 6th grade boy, who now believes that he is transgender, was allowed to change in the girls' locker room. If this is true, this is wrong on many levels. If he is struggling, he should get the help that he needs, but he should not be changing in the same area that they are changing in, where both parties can be exposed, where he can see the girls and where the girls can see him at the same time. This is very dangerous to both of them, and I care about both of them. I want to make that very clear, because he's a kid too, and so are all of the children that are involved. But it also goes past, it's not just the locker room situation, there's also the bathroom situation that we need to deal with. And in the bathrooms, as much as we'd like to say it's fine for a boy to go in there, there are slits in there that you can see through. So the girls could see the boys and the boys could see the girl if they are going to the bathroom at that time. At that time, I said, perhaps this story is not true, but I did not know where to turn with this information when I found out about it, so I just sent that email to say, to bring that about. When I called, the concerned Mr. Zinski asked me, is your daughter in that class? I said, no, she is not, so then it is not my business, or not my concern. He was very respectful, but I disagree with him on that because we are part of that school. My daughter goes to that school. It affects her friends. It affects all the kids. All 1,400 kids from Batavia that go through that middle school are affected by this decision that is made. the decision that was made that he could go into the bathroom or to the locker room was not acceptable. There was no preparation. Once again, the parents were not informed. From my understanding, the girls were just told that he would be changing in there, and if they had a problem with this, then the girls could go ahead and they could go someplace else and change rather than the boy himself. The reality is, as much as I do care about him, he is a boy. He has all boy parts.
Excuse me.
Yeah. 20 seconds. Okay. I also have a letter from a parent that has a daughter that's in there. She was not able to come. She said it was brought to my attention that my daughter, about a week ago, the boy came into the gym, into the girls' locker room. My initial reaction was a knee-jerk response. And she was looking for an answer. We were very concerned about
3 minutes. Would you like to leave that? You can do that with a recording.
Yes, I would like to check out the board.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to motion to take a brief recess.
Yeah. Okay.
Sure.
All right. Second? I don't know.
Oh, you don't need a motion for recess.
You can just have recess, 5 minutes. Go.
Okay.
Oh, are you both speaking at the same time? Annie Pruitt and Reagan Sulaver? Was that even close?
Close enough.
Okay. Welcome.
We were also informed that a boy was changing with us, and I am uncomfortable and nervous about like how this is gonna turn out, because we were informed that we had to move to a separate area if we were uncomfortable, and there are only 2 spots in that area, so if multiple girls are uncomfortable, there's not enough room for them. And also, our parents did not get informed, or the rest of the locker. And I was like, I had to tell multiple girls, or else they would like freak out and tell the principal. And yeah.
Like, if Reagan didn't tell me, I wouldn't know, and I would think like, why is there a boy in a girl's locker room? Like, why is this happening? And I would just be like really confused, and other girls were too, because like no one had a chance to tell everyone. It was only 2 other sections. It was like the section that he was changing in, and then the section right next to it. So I think if they would have informed everyone, that would have been better. And knowing like if we're uncomfortable, we're kind of getting kicked out of our where our assigned spots are to change. So it's just like it was just uncomfortable the first day.
Thank you. Yes, thank you for sharing. Is that everything? Okay, good. All right, I would like to invite Tad Swanson to the table. Here he is.
Hi everyone. Short and sweet, again, since we met just 2 weeks ago. So the only thing that I have is just an awareness that parent-teacher conferences are going on this week and next week. So be watching for more people coming in and out of schools, communicating all the good stuff that we're doing with their kids. But other than that, that's basically all I have. So,
all right.
Short and sweet.
Thanks, Tad. I like it short and sweet every once in a while. Student ambassadors.
So, the high school homecoming went off. It was very fun. Everyone enjoyed it. The last 2 weeks have just kind of been more low-key. Everyone's been getting back into studying and doing things that don't involve volleyball and color wars. And yeah, I mean, we won the Centennial game on Friday, and that was super exciting for everybody, even though it was a little bit expected.
And the shirts sold out at the high school, so that was good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The printing situation, just to kind of let you know where we're at on that. We are still trying to find a good way to get the generalization for the entire student body and how we can kind of go about that. But we did decide to go talk to the library staff just to see their opinion on it, just because we do know that they're experiencing it firsthand when students are going into the library. So we'll kind of break this up really quick. So the first thing is there's they said it takes an average of 5 to 7 minutes per student to print one thing. So that's the entire passing period. And I know last time you guys brought up the idea of like being prepared, but if you're prepared before that class block that day, you should have every right to walk into the library and print out your paper before class because you did the work. And that's like one more thing that students shouldn't have to worry about.
And something too with the time that it takes to print is if a teacher, a speech teacher or an English teacher wants to send her whole class to the LRC to print, 5 to 7 minutes per student, if you're assuming that an average class size is 25 to 28, that can take the whole block or half the block or like a majority of the block that is just, could be spent doing other things.
Yeah, and the library staff also wanted to like kind of emphasize the fact that we're really big on promoting individualized learning, but taking away a student's ability to use paper instead of a Chromebook is kind of going against that. If they believe that they learn better on paper or do work better on paper, then this is like a problem that they're enforcing. But like again, we're still waiting to get the scans from the printers to see the numbers wise where they're being spread out. So we'll still get more information in the future and have a better idea if it's something that we would like to try to change.
All right, thanks guys.
Thank you.
See you guys later. Committee updates from our board members. So we'll start with you.
BP just had their general meeting last week and still don't have final figures from the Bulldogs Unleashed, but I believe we were talking about $80,000.
To be split between the three
foundations, so yeah, it's pretty good.
Awesome.
Now we're looking at new fundraisers for next year, so.
Excellent. That's it. Chris?
We did have a capital improvement committee meeting, and we should be coming back to you, or Mark should be coming back to you, I believe, next month with, is that when we're coming back with?
2 weeks.
2 weeks? 2 weeks, yeah. So I guess that's this month. For our next batch of projects that we'd like to move forward on. We are a little hesitant about filling out our longer term forecast, like 3 or 4 years out, because we're going to wait and see what our next is going to have to say. But we're moving forward, and we should have stuff earlier than we have in the past, and hopefully we'll keep moving that earlier so that we can get better opportunities at bidding new projects.
Sounds good. Tina?
I don't have anything.
Bob?
I'm hoping that I haven't missed a meeting since our last meeting. Okay, so RAC hasn't met since last time.
Zero.
It's only been 2 weeks.
John, you're not here, Kenny?
I met with the insurance committee and I learned 2 things. One, they speak a foreign language. It's not Greek, because I studied Greek.
And you would know Greek?
I would know. I understood 1 out of 10 words. So I also learned how unqualified I am to even be in the room discussing things I don't understand. But it sounds like things move right along. And everyone else seemed to know what was going on, pretty much. That's all I have to report at this moment.
All right.
I'll study hard.
You'll have a good learning curve. You down
There you go.
We'll take care of it.
John Gaspar.
Not maybe next meeting.
All right, and I am not going to report on the facilities committee because they're reporting to us tonight. And I was CAP this week because I went to a tennis match. So we'll report on CAP next. All right, so the next item on our agenda is our consent agenda. It's our opportunity to take one vote on a number of routine business items, all of which are detailed in the board book. So, Mr. Pierce, would you like to take us through the consent agenda.
Yes, nice and brief. 5.1 and 5.2 are the approval of the regular and closed session meeting minutes from September 18th, 2018. 5.3 is our personnel report. 5.4, we had one donation. The Louise White PTO donated a little under $2,500 that went towards heart rate monitors for PE. 5.5 is the approval of the annual administrator and teacher salary and benefits report that's required by state statute to post on our website. And then finally, 5.6 is the approval of the consent agenda.
All right, are there any items on this agenda for further clarification or for removal from minutes? No, then I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second. Moved by Lowe, second by Locke. Kippy, could you please call the roll?
Yes, just a second, sorry. Yes. Baby Barr.
Yes.
Blakely. Yes. Drummond.
Yes.
Dryden.
Yes.
Gaspar.
Yes.
Locke.
Yes.
And Lowe.
Yes.
All right, next we are going to move on to our report section of the meeting. And we are going to hear from our facilities committee tonight.
All right, there are several members of the facilities committee in the audience, and some of them will be presenting, so I'd invite them up to the table to present. And then if I could ask the other members to stand, just so the board knows who to address the rest of their questions to. There's 4 more members in the audience as well. Not everybody could stay with us, but we did have a meeting today.
And thank you for your service.
Definitely. The facilities committee, this was a board direction to the administration based on, actually it came out of some discussions with the capital projects committee last year that the board decided that they would go forward with this facilities committee. We have a lot to talk about, and so we're going to talk about it over 2 different board meetings. What you're going to hear tonight are these 3 things. We're going to go back and talk about what the committee's background was, what it is that we actually were able to accomplish, all the activities we went through, the timeline, and then we did develop something called the standards. We're going to walk you through that because next week, or next in 2 weeks, hopefully, we're going to be presenting to you our recommendations, but you needed to have some context to understand those recommendations. That's what you're going to see tonight, and you're going to hear from a lot of people besides me, but I'll just go ahead and tell you that we've been talking about this for a little while, trying to figure out what the right setup is for this committee. We had many discussions realizing that we have a lot of groups that exist that are looking at our facilities. We're not ignoring our facilities, but we needed something a little bit more. So the board gave this group a charge. Then they said, let's go make sure that we get a good representation. I'm going to try that one more time. Good representatives from the community. Make sure we have a lot of them and from a variety. Some people who have students, some who don't. We also have different levels of staff members. There was an application. We received 9 community applications, and we were very grateful for those people for volunteering their time, and we were able to take them all on the committee. Not all of them have been able to attend on a regular basis. But we're fortunate that these meetings are all open to the public, so we've picked up some opinions that way as well. We've had a couple members of the public come and join us, and whenever they do, we always put them to work and ask them their opinions. We have 8 staff members. We have 2 of those staff members are teachers, and the rest look like the rest of us are administrators. Kathy Dremel attended these meetings as an observer, participated as well, and when she wasn't there, John or Chris attended a couple of the meetings as well. And I'm going to turn over to Tony to talk about what it is that we thought we were supposed to be working on.
So the charge came from the Board of Education for the Facilities Committee was to develop a long-term master facilities plan. Really, that started in 2021 and beyond. The reason why 2021 was important is because, as we know, when it comes to planning these capital projects, it takes multiple years for them to kind of take root so that we can plan for them. So the board actually will approve, hopefully in a couple weeks, the 2020 fiscal year capital projects plan. And we'll also look at 2021 and 22 and 23, but really setting in stone what's going to happen in 2020. Anyway, 2020 beyond is the kind of a question mark. The board is committed $1.8 million a year in capital projects, but as the saying goes, sometimes you can't see the forest from the trees. And that's really where the capital projects committee felt it was, is they have a bunch of projects. Some of them overlap each other. Some of them could follow over each other in the future, and really needed to have kind of a master guiding document to really guide the work of the committee over the next, hopefully, 20 years or so. If you recall, we've been working, once we finished the high school, the additions at the high school, we basically finished the master plan that had started in the 80s, but we've never really picked up the torch and built a new one. And it's essentially, that's the first step here that the committee is working on, is building the next long-term plan. We had a lot of discussions about how to go about this, and we knew that we had to develop standards of some sort so that we could ensure that there was equity and between all of our schools and that our learning environments were adequate. So that really took a lot of learning and took a lot of assessment to really understand, first, what we need to have, the different factors that we need to consider that are at play, whether it's student enrollment or finances or what the learning environment is today in a modern classroom. Figuring out what we want our standards might be, and then figuring out where our schools are in relation to those standards. And so my fellow committee members will explain those details a little bit more. But on the next slide, it kind of puts together all these pieces. We have our purpose, we have an approach where we're setting standards and then looking at those standards and assessing our schools relative to them to establish kind of a strict current status, but also figuring in student enrollment, what's going to happen in the future, getting out that crystal ball, looking at our instructional programs as they exist today, looking at how our facilities were built for instructional programs that were designed yesterday and how they might exist in the future. Our finances, our technology, even developments in the city of Batavia and how the city's various projects and work might affect the schools as well. So I'm going to pass it on to, I'm not sure on who I'm going to pass it on to. I've got one more. I've got to do with developing the standards. So in those, I really dropped the ball here, I'm sorry. Anyway, in developing those standards, these are the components of them, is developing belief statements. So what is it that we believe? What are the principles that we're going to design our standards around to make sure that our schools meet them? We came up with different components, standard spaces that every school should have, and then looking at those spaces and determining what condition they were in, and making sure that those spaces actually met the needs, the safety, the comfort, the cleanliness of all the various things that we come to expect. And then in developing the standards, we also need to have a tool, an instrument of some kind that helps us assess our facilities and determine where we are relative to them. So that's what my colleagues will talk about next.
Thank you, Tony. Like all high-functioning teams in Batavia, we recognize that this committee can't work in isolation with one another. So other groups that would commit to this work are our building leadership teams, our safety team, our technology team, our resource responsibility advisory committee, and capital projects. Moving on to our next piece, we really developed belief statements of standards, and kind of in a stair-step mentality, we had safety and security, cleanliness and comfort, and functionality and productivity as our three main areas of belief.
So after all of the studying and learning about everything and doing our site visits and then finally landing on these three standard conditions, we knew we had to kind of like, what does it mean? What does safety and security mean? What does cleanliness and comfort mean? How are we going to be able to communicate to the board? How are we going to communicate that to our assessment team? So we knew we had to dig a little bit deeper and look at safety and security. So we talked a little bit about the flow, not only the outside but the inside. We talked about cameras, security, and we actually put this as our #1 priority. We knew that security was the #1 priority for our students. We then moved to cleanliness and comfort, but we obviously know that in order to learn and grow, things need to be clean. We talked about the air quality in the classrooms, we talked about the ventilation, the lighting, all these things that kind of affect the students inside the classroom. And then we moved on to the learning environment, which we really kind of looked at the flexibility of the furniture, the technology in there, the materials that the teachers had, collaborative spaces and everything like that. So those were the three standards of the conditions that we looked at. And then we moved to the spaces. we knew that there were common spaces to all Batavia high schools, or all Batavia public schools. Their classrooms, LRC, cafeterias, things like that. But we also knew that the elementary schools had a little bit different spaces that we needed to kind of keep into consideration. They have a playground, the high school doesn't. Well, sometimes, maybe they do. And then we also knew that there was common spaces between Rotolo and the high school. And because the high school is the gem of the district, obviously they have a little bit more. So,
no bias.
Wow.
Those were the areas that we looked at.
That's why we needed a variety of
Yeah.
places. We have people from all represented from all levels in the district. Right.
As everybody mentioned before, there was a lot of other assessments and interdiscipline interconnections, so there's a lot of work that had been ongoing. The work of maintenance staff constantly, coming around and repairing things. So those input, those voices were taken into account. Every building provided an access point for parents and the staff to write up what they were thinking about. So we have that data as well. Even before we came up with our standards, they just gave us their input. And there's, like I said, a lot of other existing systems, assessments already out there. But we also wanted to get what we're referring to as the A-team that came in and used our tool. We gave them these criteria and said, go look at these standard spaces and come back to us with where they are. And they were made up of 3 members of the community. We can go to the next slide. And that's our A-team. And they were chosen specifically for their credentials, their specialty in each area that we talked about. Safety and security, right up front having the safety coordinator, who would know better. Cleanliness and comfort, somebody that looks at how clean those buildings are every day. And then, of course, the functionality, and if those spaces were representing the delivery models that we were looking for our curriculum. They were also chosen because they were a consistent group. We wanted that view to be the same. We knew just on the assessments we got back from the teachers in the building level that they were looking inward. And these folks were just going to look at everything and they'd come back to us with the same voice, that they would see the whole picture and be able to give some consistency, some neutrality, and a little objectivity. And again, it was an iterative process. They did a few assessments and then came back to us and said, well, we think we need to look at this, or we might want to tweak that, which you will see as this assessment gets implemented on an annual basis or a 3-year basis, however often you want to go back out and do this. It'll continually to be tweaked, because as the building improve, the ideal model will improve, and overall the rising ships, the boats will all get higher, and so we'll all be looking at our buildings through a different lens as that lens gets clearer.
And being part of the A-team, as it's called, really my job was more of a C-team, because I was the cleanliness and comfort part. But speaking about the ratings, you're not going to get any of the ratings tonight. It's just more of a kind of overview. This is just an example. So each one of the 3, so safety and security, had specific, as you look at what is satisfactory, what is unsatisfactory, what is ideal, and then through the process of doing the first school, as the 3 of us went through it, we noticed, well, some of them are satisfactory pending. So we added that one, and basically the satisfactory pending, meaning it's just, it can be satisfactory if this one thing happened, something that was small, and it could be communicated to, the different teams that we've talked about. As you can see, each one has the cleanliness and comfort. There's also specific criteria under each one of those categories, the same with functionality and productivity. If you go to the next slide with unsatisfactory, if it's unsatisfactory, then the 3 of us looked at, well, is it urgent and important? Well, to know if it's urgent, we had to come up with a criteria for that. So we specifically looked at if it was urgent. If it is urgent, then is it important or is it less important? So as you can see, after we did this, after the priority rating was done, the last step of this is the financial part of it. So if you look at the next one, if it was unsatisfactory, what type of financial impact would it have on the board to fix the issue? So it's either low impact, medium impact, or high impact.
There will be an opportunity to ask questions. I would just add to what Mark said, that this slide is very important for what you're going to see in 2 weeks. If we rate a project, if the committee decides that there's a space that's unsatisfactory, it's hard to tell somebody that their space isn't important, but that was the word we settled on, and it just means it's not directly tied to student learning. Everything we do in this district is tied to student learning, but some things have closer connections. So if there's a classroom, that's directly tied to student learning. And office space, well, we need offices. It's indirectly tied to student learning, but we had to rank that as less important just because it had a little farther away connection. And same with urgent. So we were trying to take some of it's just our opinion on what's urgent and important. So the committee spent a long time trying to figure out how we can define what urgent and important is, because we don't want people to think that we're not valuing their space and what they do by calling their project less important. So that's important to remember.
And I think the 18 the exact same with that. Not only that, but if you're looking at, unsatisfactory, satisfactory, and ideal, we really had to remind ourselves to go back to the rubric and really look at it. Really stay on course throughout this, just to make it as level as possible. And that's why I think it was important, and I agreed to be part of it, but to have the same people do it. So if you had different groups, you're going to see through a little bit different lens. So to try to get as consistent as data as possible, I think that was important.
And then the committee is still in the process of going through those results. We saw all of the 18's results tonight, and we've begun to process them. We need to do the data analysis because the three of them, the 18, they spent dozens and dozens and dozens of hours doing these. I mean, it could be upwards of 80 hours, the three of them. Between the actual walkthroughs, they went through multiple times, and then they had to report back to us and collate that information. So we'll do a data analysis and bring it back to the committee, just like giving some ideas about how they want to see the data reported so that they can make good recommendations to the board. So that's what you're going to see next time. Charlie.
Yeah, one thing we forgot to mention and didn't get mentioned was that not every space in the entire district was reviewed, and that was intentional because there's a lot of them, and a lot of them are also similar in terms of classrooms. So just keep that in mind, but we'll try to shake that out when we go through the data, but I just wanted to be clear that not every classroom was walked through. But all the specialty spaces were. All the spaces we identified as having to be necessary in the building.
The macro approach with an adequate collection of data.
Just not everything.
I'm super excited based on this.
I know. Did we pique your interest? Because in 2 weeks we're going to come back and say, now you understand the process. Let's talk about the actual results.
Sure you're not ready now, because I could use that. Pick me up.
No, you gotta wait. The anticipation. Is that like fun?
Could I? Questions? Okay.
Yeah, this slide. There you go.
Can you get that in paper for him?
I think for the rest of the board, I know, because I've sat on a couple of the meetings, but I just think for the rest of the board members that weren't at any of the meetings, if the people that are here could introduce themselves and what association you have, if you have kids or no kids or what, so it makes it, we can understand where you are coming from, and even with the administrators, so just if you guys could, who's here?
I'm Charlie Johnsos. I have 2 children in JVN, and my principal somewhere. She was here. She was here, but I have 2 children at JVN.
And I'm Kevin Callahan. I am a retired electrician, construction trade for 4 years. And when this came about, I decided I'm going to get involved in it.
And a frequent friend of the board. You come to talk to us a number of times, and you're always willing to share your opinion. Just doing a little plug for government.
I'm Gretchen Grant. I'm a townie. I've been here for over
probably 35 years. So I actually went through JV, from the new middle school, and then the first addition to the Batavia High School. So I lived all through that. And my daughter just started, well, she's 4 years at ECC. And I just want to be part of the community because I grew up here and I want to support the community. And I kind of feel like I had to voice some concerns and opinions of what was happening. And I'm very glad to be part of this. And I feel really collectively there's been some great input from kind of the administrator teacher side and the people in the community.
I'm Melanie Posada. I have 2 kids currently in the district and one of them just graduated. I've been through all of the schools. My name's Anne-Marie Barnes. We've lived here since 1989. All 4 of my grown children have gone through to Batavia schools, and I am a teacher at Louise High School.
I'm Brian Swanty. I'm the building principal at the middle school.
I'm from the high school.
That was incredible.
I think that was implied. The general district for operations. I also have, when I started this process, I had one at every level. And now this year, I just have one in elementary and one in middle school. Or sorry, one in high school.
Well, thank you, because I think that helps. It gives us a perspective of where you guys were seeing this from. And Mark, I have a question for the A team. When you guys went in, let's say the first building you went to or the area you went to, I was just thinking about this. Did you guys stay as a group together or did you split up?
For most of it, we stayed as a group. There were some scheduling conflicts that some of us had to leave or go back at it. But for the most part, I would say 80% of the time we were together.
And so then you were talking about certain things when you saw it.
Yep.
Okay, the other thing is if you went back to the first building you went to, would you change anything? Because now after you've gone through all the other buildings and you got into a rhythm of seeing certain things, should you maybe have gone back to that first building to see anything different?
No, because we intentionally used the first building as kind of a test building, and we changed a few things after that. And we met as a committee then again to give some feedback back to them and changed multiple things. Actually, we originally thought a Google Doc would be the greatest thing. Well, it's really hard to walk with a computer and try to do that. So it really was easiest to have paper and to change it a little bit. So I know we worked with Lisa to do that.
Okay.
Bob created the forum, Brian, one of them, and then we ended up scrapping it.
Yeah.
Always learning, always growing.
Always willing to take risks. Growth and challenge.
Well, we actually did 5 of the 6 elementary buildings in one day.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was an entire day, and it took some time. And then we met. But what we decided to do, and it helped after each building to meet and talk about it instead of trying to do multiple buildings because there's a lot. I mean, elementary-wise, there was 30 spaces each building. So.
Okay.
Other questions about the process? There will be a paper or a electronic report that we'll get next time, right? So
Right, we'll get that.
Data that we can look at and things we can read. And a paper copy for some of us, but we're not going to print it at the high school.
No.
Because I'd like it before LRC time.
Right. You can't. Well, could you do something about that, Mr. BHS?
All right. So any other questions? Because we're going to have all the exciting results in 2 weeks.
I just want to thank everyone for
Yeah, they've worked
participating,
hard.
volunteering your time. And,
They've worked very hard. We do have one item for action tonight on our agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so sorry. I'm like, I'm turning them off. I just spent like 3 hours with them, so I guess I was just done.
They might want to go home.
Put it together. I'm ready to move on. Whew. All right, so we did have one item for action on our agenda tonight, and I think board consensus was that everyone was comfortable going ahead and taking a vote on it. Tony, did you want to preface anything about the best contract before we vote on it?
No, I think the report that
We talked about it.
It
was a long process. It was a good process. All right, so then I would entertain a motion to approve the negotiated agreement with the Batavia Educational Support Professionals Association for the 2018-19 and the 2019-20 school years. So moved.
Second.
Moved by Blakely, second by Locke. Candy, could you please call the roll?
Baybar.
Yes.
Blakely.
Yes.
Dryden.
Yes.
Gaspar.
Yes.
Locke.
Yes.
Lowe.
Yes.
Dremmel.
Yes. Very exciting. We will move on to administrative comments. There will be closed session, but there will be no action after the closed session, just for anyone's interest. Dr. Hitchens, comments?
I just want to draw everyone's attention to the back wall there where we have been, it's a mark. No. We've been working on that display to recognize everyone who has been with the district, our employees, for 25 or more years. And so we had a student that helped design it, and Sue obviously was very involved, and Dave Smith, he installed it, and obviously the graphics department helped us, with the student, Kathleen Terry-Ton. So there's a couple photos that are missing. We're putting some photos in there of some of these people in action. Todd Swanson, one of those people who made the board. Nice job, Todd. Thank you for your 25 plus years. Do I see Mark Anderson on there too? No, he's not over there. We count his high school years, maybe.
Right. Tony's got, like I said.
Tony'd be on there.
Right. So I just wanted to make sure everyone, I wanted to acknowledge all the work that went into that board, and and make sure you knew what that was for.
That looks great. Thank you, Sue. Very cool. All right. Board comments. We can start with John Gaspar.
All right. Thanks to everyone for all the emails or who came to talk to us today. We do listen and appreciate that. I wanted to thank everyone at the RJAC and staff for getting this board materials ready. A big thank you to the Facilities Commission group for all the hard work that they've put into this. And as Bob said, I guess we're looking forward to seeing exactly what they've come up with and to help us. And big thanks to admin and Vespa for finally reaching a contract, and hopefully we can move on to the next stage. So thank you, everyone, and have a good week.
Thanks, John. John Dryden?
I've spoken to several teachers about the printing situation in the high school. The most common feedback was train wreck. I'm hoping it's something that we can fix without too much delay. Transgender issues. Federal law Title IX requires and allows the right to be treated according to one's gender identity, that the name and pronouns used for that individual match the gender identity. They cannot be forced to use separate facilities. The right to use restrooms and locker rooms that match their gender identity is protected under Title IX. They have a right to privacy. School must keep the information as private as possible about their gender identity. Now, while it's obvious that the federal courts are still wrestling with this through contrary rulings between the Obama and Trump administrations, it's my belief that we've, till now, handled this issue according to the law and very adeptly. And I'm willing to stress that people are uncomfortable but this isn't something that's going to go away, and it's something that we're going to have to learn to be sensitive to. And if that takes a good bit of effort on all of our parts, I guess we'll just have to learn. I just wanted to remind people what the law was, what Title IX was. And I hope in future, when we're discussing publicly this issue, that we can at least respect the individual's right to be addressed by the pronoun of their gender identity. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Echo a lot of what John just said. Of course, a lot of it was law. I heard some words tonight. I heard communication mentioned a lot. I also heard the word uncomfortable mentioned a lot, and I actually heard the word fear mentioned a couple times. And communication is very important, and we have to remember that it does actually take a village, and we have to remember that when we are uncomfortable, that's an opportunity to learn, to ask questions, and to grow. And when we don't ask questions, when we don't take that opportunity to grow, that's where fear slides in. So communication and growth through uncomfortability are very important. And I hope that our village does continue to take each student's feelings into consideration, each and every student. Thanks.
Thanks, Bob. Tina.
I've been on this board for a while, and there's only one other time where, first of all, I'm on this board for our kids. That's my number one reason, all of our kids. And there's only been one other time in all my years that a group of parents came up publicly to speak about a disappointing child, until tonight. And tonight I'm disappointed because these are our children. And for people anyone to come up publicly and speak about a child is disappointing to me. I believe questions of the people have been asked of Mr. Zwemke. I believe Dr. Hitchens has addressed questions and concern, and it's also my understanding that so has President Dremel. So to come publicly and speak about a child is disappointing to me. And I really, really would hope that before that happens again, we think about what would that be if that was our child going through what they're going through. Chris?
I want to say that I am grateful that we live in a community where so many people participate in the process. I am grateful for my fellow board members. I'm grateful for the administration. I am grateful for the community members, and I'm glad that people feel comfortable coming to us with their ideas, with their concerns, and I pride myself on our district's ability to communicate with each other and work through issues. I know that Batavia as a community has a long history of embracing people who may not feel comfortable in society elsewhere. Specifically, I am referring to the fact that we are an abolitionist town. Thank you, Mr. Dryden. And I think that this is another moment where we have the ability to welcome and appreciate all members of our community, including those who may not feel comfortable elsewhere outside of Batavia. But that requires communication, that requires that we learn, that requires that we become better. And I think that we all need to work together to do that. On a happier note, I am really looking forward to the middle school doing cross-country sectionals this weekend. The boys and the girls both won the conference title. And so I'm looking forward to the next 2 weeks of cross-country. So.
Sue?
I think I'm just thinking of
I obviously cannot add to the eloquence or passion of my fellow board members. We do have closed session on the agenda. There is no action after we come out of closed session. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn the closed session to consider collective negotiating matters between the public body and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees.
Second.
All right, moved by Blakely, second by Dryden. Could you please call the roll?
Baby Brown.
Yes.
Blakely? Yep. Dremel?
Yes.
Dryden?
Yes.
Gaspar?
Yes.
Locke?
Yes.
Stone?
Yes.
All right, we'll adjourn the closed session. Does everyone need a little break?
We have a 5-minute recess.
5 minutes.